Hi, guys.
Hey, guys, it's Mark.
And Michelle.
And this is Mark and Michelle. Yeah. And, excuse me, we're going to finish up talking about the emotional symptoms that I recovered from. And this is part 3. So we're going to start with today's first one is being shut off from intuition.
Before we start, is this okay?
Mm-hmm.
This list exists in the book, the free ebook that we have written called Buried Alive, One Man's Journey Out of Autism.
Right.
You can get that at www.healyourautism.com. That is a free ebook. So carry on, Mark.
Thank you, Michelle. And the first one is being shut off from intuition. Now, for me, that was the case. Sometimes I would get periodic flashes of intuition, but for the most part, it was not a regular thing for me, not consistent. And I've heard other adults on the spectrum say that as well, those who were trying, but then I've also heard other adults on the spectrum who said that they still had some contact with their intuition. Again, this is a spectrum. Everybody with autism is going to be different, and they're going to experience it differently, even though the symptoms can be the same.
It depends on where the metals have deposited.
And whether you have PANS, PANDAS, the strep or viral infections, backed up liver, that kind of thing. So, and to me, trying to understand myself, my internal self, was difficult without some form of intuition. And then,
hi, healing family.
Hey! So for me, a lack of connection with my intuition was a problem. And I've been working on that for at least 10 years. One of my earliest books on trying to get in touch with my intuition was Shakti Gawain's, I think it's just called Intuition. And I got that in 2010. So here in a couple months, it'll be 10 years that I've been working on that.
So compare how it made no sense to you then compared to now, how it makes sense to you.
Well, I'm still learning, but when I was autistic, intuition made no sense, because it is about, to me, it's one of the vaguest concepts I've run across. With alexithymia, and we're going to talk about that in a minute because that's one of the other symptoms. Hey, Krista. Krista's early in the day. But not being able to be in contact with my own emotions is part of what I'm finding intuition is, for me anyway. It's how do you feel about something. If you don't know how you feel, then you don't know whether to respond to it or not. And so when I was autistic, having the alexithymia and the emotions that were turned so way down that I couldn't identify them was a problem, because if it was something I liked, I just knew it up here, but I never felt a ooh that went with it, or as one of our favorite authors calls it, inner ding.
Yeah, he complained about that often.
Quite a bit.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? Now I know what that means. It was what makes you go, ooh,
But you had nothing go, ooh, for you.
No, almost never. And I liked all the classes that I was taking because in my head, my head was roaming around about all the stuff I'd learned. But there was hardly ever an emotion behind it. Because if there was, then I would have been much more motivated to do better, especially when it came to the biology. And so, and Michelle can attest to this, because I've been complaining about wanting to get in touch with my intuition for God knows how long now.
Our whole marriage?
Maybe. Before and so that being the case, I'm just now understanding what it means. And so.
What does it mean?
Well, for me, it's a guide, or can be a guide, but it's not a guide as in the sense of a voice. For the longest time, hey, Linda, for the longest time, I used to expect an internal voice to tell me what to do. And only in the past few months, about 3 months or so, 2 months, 3 months, have I gotten to the point where I'm finding that it's your body telling you not what to do, but whether you connect with it or not, whether it's true for you or not. And if it makes me feel good, then do it. You know, this is not that if it feels good, do it type of thing, as in hedonism. This is if every fiber of your being gets excited about it, about a subject, that's the subject you should be doing or learning about or whatever it is. And there may be many of those. So, but if every fiber of your being is repulsed by it, like a person that I encountered recently, then you shouldn't be doing it. And it's funny, my head overrode my past experiences and said, well, let's interact with this person because maybe it'll be a good thing. It was not a good thing. I didn't listen to my past on that and how it made me feel. And so I wound up, while not exactly wasting my time, I definitely learned a lesson.
Yes.
But I definitely realized, no, this next time I'm going to listen because I'm not going to waste my time on someone like this. Now, if you think that it's a bad thing to say wasting your time, well, let me put it this way. There's some people that come into your life that are absolutely pointless other than a lesson. The lesson you'll learn, but the person, that's all the person was good for. And there are times that you come into people's lives and you'll probably be completely pointless to them, right? You may know that, you may not, but it'll be a lesson for them. So that's why I say that. Now let's move on to the next one. Oh, here we go. Not recognizing the emotions of others or self. Now we've talked about that a little bit in other areas like the social and somewhat in this emotional one. But
well, and we've also interviewed an adult Aspie who had self emotion.
Exactly.
So
it's different.
Different. It depends on where the metals are.
Autism is different for people. And for those of you on the spectrum who don't believe in recovering this type of stuff, I guarantee you it's all different. You are a separate person. And your autism is not allowing you to see how separate you are from other people. And everyone is separate from each other. That's just the way it is, right?
So this is Mark's experience.
It is. So not recognizing emotions of others or self. Well, what I've realized during recovery is I recognize my own emotions. I can recognize them in other people. But I couldn't recognize emotions in others that I had not experienced myself, if that makes sense. I think it makes sense to most everybody. But in other words, it's like waking up in Australia, seeing all kinds of birds, and not knowing what they are. Well, you can't really ask other people because to the Australians, well, that's such and such a bird. Oh, okay. All right. But you've had no direct experience of that. So well, maybe that was a bad analogy. So never mind. But anyway, I had to experience it myself before I could recognize it in other people. I had to have my own internal field guide to emotions to know what they were or are in others. And if I didn't know what they were, I definitely couldn't recognize them in others. And so I didn't know, I couldn't necessarily empathize with others because I didn't really know how they felt. And, it's interesting what is real to me now. And you guys have probably heard me talk about when I was in my autistic past, I would poke people sometimes and ask them, are you real? What makes things real for us is the effect that they have on our emotions. And because that is one big form of communication between us and others is our emotions. And I remember as a kid, people talking all about, oh, I felt this way and I felt, hey, Missy, how are you?
Hi, Missy.
We're talking more about emotional symptoms that I healed from. And we're finishing that up today. But I'd hear people talking about emotions when I was a kid, and I didn't ever remember experiencing anything like that. And I didn't up until my late 40s and in the past year or so.
In recovery.
Because, like I said a minute ago, I didn't know what other people were feeling because I had never felt it. And when Michelle and I first realized that I might have autism, I remember her saying, there can be thousands of emotions.
Feels like it.
Right. Well, and I told her, that's BS.
That's not what he said.
No, that's not what I said. I said I expanded that word, and but that's exactly what I meant. But a year later, or a couple years later, when we started recovery, I started to see what she meant, because now what I enjoy about being an NT is, as an ASPE, I could never forget any slight or insult or offense, ever, because I'd always remember it.
I had a long list. Mm-hmm. I was on the naughty list.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, everybody was on the naughty list, so let's be fair, okay?
Well, I was just around you more than anyone else.
Well, that's true. And so
it's all been forgiven now.
Okay. And
okay, maybe it hasn't.
And so now I forgot where I was. And so that's where I was. And so as an ASPE, I never forgot any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Now as an NT, I know that in a few minutes another emotion is going to replace the offended one in just a few minutes. And I look forward to that now, because there is a buffer zone between you and others, and it's called your emotions. It's that immediate response that you have when somebody can be nasty. As an autistic person, I did not have an immediate response. It could be days later, sometimes a week or two later, before I realized, oh, they were being nasty. And so it was too late to respond then.
Right.
It's too late to respond even 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
You know, because as she likes to say, oh, I've moved on from that. You know.
Well, I do.
Well, but NTs do. Yeah. I mean, because emotions come your way so often, they force you to move on. Mm-hmm. You know, and so you don't get you don't get stuck so much in one thing. You can move on, unless of course you have an obsessive brain and you're an NT. Then that I can see that being a real problem. Well, I guess I do kind of have an obsessive brain, but now an NT, so I can see how that's a problem. You think so? So anyway, but not being able to recognize the emotions of myself or of others was a real problem, because that's how the world talks.
Well, and that leads into Mark didn't have a sense of self.
Right. Now, a sense of self, what is the sense of self? To me, it is not personal preferences. In other words, oh, I like World War I planes. Oh, I like computers. Oh, I like cooking. That may be one fraction of it, but that isn't all of it. To me, what I realized is I had no sense of how I felt about anything or how I would react to things. And so that's a problem, because I could never, well, oddly enough, a sense of self by my definition, is how you filter the world. And
you never seemed present to me, so.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I guess I seem present now.
Oh, yes.
Too much so.
I love it.
Uh-huh. Well, good. And so being very, well, yeah, see, that was a big thing. That was a huge personality change in the first couple of years of I went from being a very non-present, and this used to happen to me all the time. This is how non-present I was. As an autistic person, I could walk up to a group of people and never be recognized. And they would never be aware that I was there.
Yeah.
Right? Now, even if I was talking, even if I said something, but now people are aware of my presence and I don't have to say a word. And that, to me, is kind of a scary thing. It's a good thing, because people don't mess with me like they used to.
Right.
That is a very good thing. But it also puts people off immediately sometimes that I don't intend.
Not the people that you need.
Well, and that's what my friend Marielle says, and what my friend Michelle says. Is not the as my friend Marielle says, and Michelle said this too in different ways, is that because I told him about this, she knows about the change of personality. She lived through it, but my friend Marielle didn't. And but Marielle, she likes to say, well, you know, those people who get put off by you have their own issues that have nothing to do with you, and you just push their buttons, and they don't know how to handle it. So it really has nothing to do with you, she says.
And I want to add, Mark keeps saying his personality changed, but he was still really the same person. It's just a third dimension came on.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it added a whole lot. And that took some adjustments, a lot of adjustments between us.
Between us. And now there was a lot of adjustments between me and the people I worked with, too. And a lot of times they got the raw end of my temper as well, which was good because I used to come home and bring it home to her too much.
Yeah.
And so that could be a real problem. And finally, I got to a point of recovery where I was able to choose not to bring it home to her.
So he really was two-dimensional until he recovered, and then this huge emotional person emerged out of the dust.
Well, she kept saying as we all the times we were married, you have a lot of charisma.
Yeah, he did, even as an Aspie.
And I remember when I was still autistic, if I talked in class, everybody would turn around and look at me. That annoyed the crap out of me. Why are you people turning around? You know, and I remember in a classroom with 270 people for organic chemistry, I raised my hand, asked a question, and everybody was looking at me. And I said, "What are you looking at?"
You would know now.
Yeah, well, I would know now. And everybody turned back around, but it was just like, what? You know?
Mark's personality is bigger than this house we're sitting in, just so you know.
Well, hers is too, just so you know. So
Hi, Gerda.
So, but we have survived, and we will continue to.
I like him a lot, if you haven't noticed.
She does, and I like her just as much, if you haven't noticed. So, but anyway, those are the three things we wanted to talk about today. And that sense of self, though, now, just to wind up, that sense of self is huge, because now I do know how I feel about things, and I'm coming to grips with it's okay to not like certain things. It's okay to not like certain people, because growing up as a pastor's son in church, I constantly heard you have to like everybody or love everybody. I thought that was the same thing as life.
Well, and Mark was autistic, so he took that literally.
Right. And that's the thing. You got to remember, your autistic loved ones are going to take things literally most of the time, if not all of the time. And because that's the case, when you tell them, be nice, they're going to form their own opinion of what nice is. And they're going to be that to the best of their ability. But it may not actually be what you think. They just had to take it literally and form their own idea and move on with that. So, and that's what happened. There's, if you tell them that they're mean, they're going to believe that they're mean. You only mean it in that moment. But I guarantee you, because I did, and I've heard this from many others on the spectrum as well. When you tell them that they're mean, or tell them that they're not nice, or tell them anything that is negative about them, their personalities, enough times, they're going to take that up literally, and they're going to become that. And I've been working on getting rid of all those things. Even this morning, I had to spend about 45 minutes in there working on getting rid of things that people told me I was. And so your language with your autistic kids has to be much more specific and concrete than it does with your NT kids.
And you have to be careful about speaking in an emotional state. Because that will go away, but it won't go away for the Aspie or for the autistic person.
Exactly. And they'll constantly remember, oh, well, every time I do this, that's what happens. So they'll work really hard. Many of them will work their hard, doing their best to not be that way. And that pushes them into perfectionism at some point. So anyway, well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We will move on to, I think we did those. Oh, we're going to do the last category, which is actually the largest. And that is physical symptoms, and we'll start on those tomorrow. But anyway, so guys, keep on with the celery juice. Keep on with the heavy metal detox smoothie. Keep on with
the lemon water.
And go to www.healyourautism.com
to get this
list,
which is in the free ebook,
Buried Alive, One Man's Journey Out of Autism. and Michelle put that together. And it's an excellent book. We've had lots of good reviews. People have found it so full of information that they have to read it numerous times to get through it and get everything out of it they need. But that's a good thing.
And then download our other book, www.healyourautism.com/BUY, the book.
Mm-hmm. And that book is entitled Heal Your Autism's Do-It-Yourself Guide. Healing Begins in Your Kitchen.
And what it has been described as, we read the medical medium books for you and told you how to do it.
And Michelle definitely read the medical medium books.
I did. I read them, and I took notes, and I made it, well, with his help, made an easy to read, easy to implement guide on how to heal.
How to detox.
Not just autism. Heal all of you.
That's right. In fact, we don't do just autism. We help people with other things as well. Autoimmune disease, because she's healing from those and healed from those. God
everything,
knows what
just
else.
All of it.
Exactly.
Because medical medium is that good.
We do. And we do coaching, guys. So you're going to have questions that you may not be able to get answered in the book. So that means you come to us. We sign you up for either one-on-one coaching or group coaching, and we handhold you through it till your health.
If you have a question, just send us a message. We're approachable.
Yes. All right, guys.
Okay.
We will see you tomorrow.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.